The restaurant was one of those places where the waiters wore black and the wine cost more than my work boots. Elin had picked it, naturally. Everything had to be perfect for her 33rd birthday, especially the audience. I sat at the head of the long table, watching my wife hold court like some kind of social media queen. Her friends hung on every word, phones out, documenting every moment for their Instagram stories. The whole scene felt like performance art, and I was apparently the prop. "Cole's been so supportive of my business," Elin was saying, her voice carrying that fake sweetness she used when cameras were rolling. "He's really been there for me through this transition period." Transition period. That was new. Bree Sutter, Elin's closest friend and fellow social climber, leaned forward with that predatory smile she wore when she smelled gossip. "Transition period? What do you mean?" Elin's eyes found mine across the table. There was something cold there, something calculating. "Well, you know how it is. Sometimes you need someone stable while you figure out your next move." The table went quiet. I could feel everyone's attention shift to me, waiting for my reaction. "Don't read too much into it," Elin continued, her voice getting stronger, more confident. "He's temporary." The room erupted in nervous laughter. Bree's eyes went wide with delight. Someone's phone was definitely recording. And there I sat, the temporary husband, the placeholder, the joke. I'd known things were bad between us. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the way she'd started treating me like hired help instead of a partner. But this? This was something else entirely. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The laughter faded. Every face at the table turned toward me, expecting what? An argument? A scene? Some kind of dramatic breakdown they could post about later? Instead, I reached for my wallet and pulled out exactly $43, enough to cover my appetizer and one beer. I placed it on the table next to my barely touched plate. "You're right, Elin," I said, my voice steady and calm. "Temporary, just ended." I walked out of that restaurant with more dignity than I'd felt in months. Behind me, I could hear the shocked silence giving way to frantic whispers. Someone called my name, but it wasn't Elin. The November air hit my face like a slap, but it felt good, clean, real. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my truck. Text after text, but I didn't look. I knew what they'd say. Either fake concern from people who just laughed at my humiliation, or damage control from Elin. I drove home through the Minneapolis streets, past the trendy bars and overpriced coffee shops that made up Elin's world. Our house sat in one of those developments where every lawn looked the same and every garage held a luxury SUV. 2 years ago, I'd been proud to afford this place. Tonight, it just felt like an expensive prison. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. I sat in the truck for a moment, engine ticking as it cooled, and tried to figure out when exactly my marriage had become a performance I wasn't invited to participate in. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. "Cole, we need to talk." That wasn't what it sounded like. Then another, "Please come back. Everyone's asking where you went." And finally, "You're embarrassing me." I laughed out loud in the empty truck. I was embarrassing her. Inside the house, I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat down at the kitchen table. The same table where Elin planned her events, where she spread out contracts and vendor lists and dreamed of becoming Minneapolis's premier party planner. That's when I noticed her tablet, still open on the counter. She must have been reviewing tonight's guest list one more time before we left. The screen was unlocked, and I could see her message app was open. I shouldn't have looked. In a healthy marriage, you don't go through your spouse's private messages. But we'd passed healthy about 6 months ago, and tonight had burned whatever trust was left. The messages were from someone named Derek. The timestamps showed they'd been texting right up until we left for dinner. "Can't wait to celebrate later. Your husband have any idea?" "None. He's so clueless, it's almost sad." "Poor bastard. You sure you're ready to pull the trigger? After tonight, everyone will know it's over. Then we can go public. I scrolled up, finding weeks of messages, plans for hotel meetings, complaints about having to keep up the charade with me, detailed discussions about how to manage the transition so Elin's business wouldn't suffer. The bourbon burned, but not as much as reading my wife discuss our marriage like a business merger she was backing out of. My phone rang. Elin's ringtone. I watched it buzz on the table until it went to voicemail, then immediately started ringing again. This time I answered. Cole? Thank God. Where are you? Home. Look, about what I said, I read your messages, Elin. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. What messages? Her voice was different now, careful. All of them. Derek seems nice, very supportive of your transition period. Cole, I can explain. No need. You were pretty clear, at dinner and in your texts. Please just wait for me to get home. We can work this out. I looked around the kitchen, at the granite countertops and stainless steel appliances we'd picked out together, at the wedding photo on the refrigerator, both of us smiling like we meant it. You know what, Elin? I don't think we can. I hung up and turned off the phone. The next morning, I woke up on the couch with a bourbon headache and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Elin was gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway, and her side of the bed looked unslept in. I made coffee and sat down with my laptop. If Elin wanted to treat our marriage like a business transaction, then I'd handle the dissolution the same way. First, I pulled up our joint accounts. As an architectural project manager, I'd always handled the finances. Elin was creative. Numbers weren't her thing. She'd been happy to let me manage everything while she focused on building her event planning business. That business had been my idea, actually. When she'd gotten laid off from her marketing job 2 years ago, I'd encouraged her to go freelance. I'd co-signed her business loans, put up our house as collateral, and added my name as guarantor on all her major vendor contracts. I'd believed in her. More than she'd ever believed in me, apparently. Now I scrolled through the contracts I'd signed, the commitments I'd made on behalf of Rydell Events. My name was on everything. The florist agreements, the catering contracts, the venue partnerships. Elin might be the face of the business, but legally, I was the one responsible when things went wrong, which gave me options. I started with the bank. A quick call to remove myself as guarantor on her business line of credit. The banker, someone I'd worked with for years, was professional but curious. Any particular reason for the change, Cole? Business restructuring, I said. Elin's taking full control. Next, I called the 3 major vendors who handled most of her events. Professional conversations, nothing emotional. I was withdrawing my personal guarantee from their contracts with Rydell Events, effective immediately. Is there a problem with the account? Asked Janet from Premier Catering. No problem at all, just some personal changes. You'll want to work out new terms directly with Elin going forward. By noon, I'd systematically removed myself from every aspect of Elin's business, legally, cleanly, and completely within my rights. If she wanted to go public with Derek, she could do it without my credit score and my house backing her up. My phone had been buzzing all morning. 17 missed calls from Elin, dozens of texts. I finally turned it back on and scrolled through them. Where are you? We need to talk. Cole, please. I know you're upset, but we can fix this. Your truck is gone. Are you coming back? I'm sorry about last night. It came out wrong. Call me. Something's wrong with my business accounts. That last one made me smile. The front door slammed around 1 o'clock. Elin's heels clicked across the hardwood as she searched the house for me. I was in my workshop in the basement, cleaning tools I'd already cleaned twice. Cole? Her voice echoed down the stairs. Cole, what did you do? I didn't answer. Let her come to me. She appeared at the bottom of the stairs, still wearing last night's dress, but looking like she'd slept in her car. Her makeup was smudged, her hair a mess. This wasn't the polished social media queen from the restaurant. The bank called, she said. They said you removed the guarantee on my credit line. I set down the wrench I'd been polishing and looked at her. That's right. You can't do that. I have 3 events this month. The Hartman wedding is Saturday. You can still do the events. You just need to work out new payment terms with your vendors. Her face went white. New terms? Cole, they want payment up front now, cash. I don't have that kind of money. Sounds like a business problem. She stepped closer, and I could smell the desperation on her. This is insane. You're destroying my business because of one stupid comment? One comment? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Elin, I read your messages. All of them. This isn't about one comment. This is about 6 months of lies and planning and treating me like an idiot. Those messages, they're not what they look like. Really? Because they look like you and Derek planning to humiliate me in public, so you could justify leaving. They look like you using my name and my credit to build a business you planned to take with you when you left. She was crying now, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. You're being vindictive. I'm being practical. You said I was temporary. Well, so was my financial support. I can't cover the Hartman wedding without the credit line. Do you know what that will do to my reputation? I picked up another tool, started cleaning it with deliberate care. I guess you should have thought of that before you decided to go public with your transition period. Cole, please. I'll end it with Derek. We can go to counseling. Just put the guarantees back. I stopped cleaning and looked at her directly. You think this is about Derek? Isn't it? This is about respect, Elin. About partnership. About not being treated like a placeholder in my own marriage. Derek's just a symptom. She was quiet for a long moment, and I thought maybe she was finally understanding. Then she straightened up, and I saw the calculation return to her eyes. Fine, she said. If that's how you want to play this, we'll get lawyers involved. I'll take half of everything, including your precious workshop. I smiled. You're welcome to try, but you might want to check our prenup first. Her face went even whiter. We'd signed a prenup at her insistence, back when she thought she'd be the primary breadwinner. It protected individual business assets and limited alimony claims. You bastard, she whispered. No, Elin, I'm just not temporary anymore. She turned and ran up the stairs. A few minutes later, I heard her car start and drive away. Over the next 3 days, I watched Elin's carefully constructed world fall apart through the neighborhood gossip network. Mrs. Gupta next door was better than CNN for local news. That silver BMW's been in your driveway every night this week, she mentioned while I was getting my mail Thursday morning. Different man than usual. Usual? She gave me a look that said she knew exactly what she was implying. That same car's been visiting during the day for months, always when your truck wasn't here. Derek, making himself at home while I was at work. Anyway, Mrs. Gupta continued, there was quite a scene yesterday, lot of yelling. Police almost got called. Police? Your wife and some catering people. They were loading their truck back up, taking things away. She was crying, begging them to leave the flowers at least. The Hartman wedding. Elin's biggest contract of the year, and her vendors had pulled out when they couldn't get payment guarantees. I should have felt bad for her. 6 months ago, I would have. But that was before I learned what temporary meant to her. Friday evening, Bree Sutter showed up at my door. She was dressed for Instagram, all careful makeup and designer clothes, but her smile looked strained. Hi, Cole. Is Elin here? No. Oh. She shifted nervously. Well, maybe you can help me. There's been some confusion about the Hartman wedding tomorrow. What kind of confusion? Well, some of the vendors are saying they can't deliver without upfront payment, and Elin's not answering her phone, and the bride is freaking out because nothing's confirmed. I leaned against the doorframe. Sounds complicated. The thing is, everyone knows you're the one who really handles the business side of things. Maybe you could call them, straighten this out? I'm not involved in Elin's business anymore. Bree's perfectly applied smile cracked a little. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not guaranteeing her contracts anymore. If the vendors want payment, they need to work that out with Elin directly. But the wedding is tomorrow. The bride's family spent $50,000 on this. Then they should probably call Elin. Cole, this is crazy. You can't just destroy someone's business because you had a fight. I straightened up, and something in my expression made Bree take a step back. A fight? Is that what Elin told you? That we had a fight? Well, she said you were upset about something she said at dinner, but did she mention Derek? Bree's eyes went wide, and I had my answer. You knew, I said. You all knew. Cole, it's not... things between you two have been rocky for a while. How long, Bree? How long what? How long have you known my wife was cheating on me? She looked like she wanted to run, but her social media instincts kept her planted, probably hoping for content. I don't think cheating is the right word. What would be the right word? She's been confused about what she wants. Derek's been helping her figure things out. In hotel rooms? Bree's face flushed. That's not... Look, everyone could see you two weren't happy. Elin deserves to be with someone who appreciates her. Someone with more money, you mean? That's not fair. Isn't it? Derek owns 3 clubs downtown. I manage construction projects. Which one fits better with your little influencer lifestyle? You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. This is Derek. We need to talk. I showed Bree the screen. Looks like your friend wants to have a conversation. She read it and went pale. Cole, don't do anything stupid. Like what? Like trusting people who've been lying to me for months? Like getting violent. Derek's not... He doesn't handle confrontation well. Good thing I'm not looking for a confrontation then. I texted back. Sure. Murphy's Pub on Hennepin. 1 hour. Bree grabbed my arm. Cole, please, this doesn't have to get ugly. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Bree, it's been ugly for months. I'm just done pretending it's not. Murphy's Pub was the kind of place where construction workers drank beer after 12-hour shifts, and nobody cared about your social media following. I'd been coming here since I started working in Minneapolis, back when Elin thought it was charmingly authentic instead of embarrassing. Derek was already there when I arrived, looking as out of place as a peacock in a henhouse. Designer jeans, expensive watch, the kind of haircut that cost more than most people's car payments. He'd claimed a corner booth and was nursing a craft beer while checking his phone every 30 seconds. I ordered a grain belt from Big Mike behind the bar. Mike was an ex-wrestler who'd been working here since the Clinton administration, and he had a gift for reading people. That your wife's boyfriend? He asked quietly, nodding toward Derek. Word traveled fast in Minneapolis. How'd you know? Bree Sutter was in here an hour ago, crying into her wine about some wedding disaster. Mentioned you and some rich guy named Derek having words. She drinks here now? Nah. But she was driving around looking for you. Figured you might come here. I took my beer and walked over to Derek's table. Up close, he was smaller than I'd expected. Gym muscles, but soft hands. The kind of guy who'd never done real work. Cole? He stood up, extending his hand like we were meeting at a business lunch. I sat down without taking it. Derek. He settled back into his seat, trying to look casual. Thanks for meeting me. I know this situation is complicated. Complicated how? Well, obviously there are feelings involved, emotions. People get hurt when relationships change. I took a sip of beer and studied him. Relationships change? What I mean is, sometimes people grow apart. It's nobody's fault, really. It just happens. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? Derek's face flushed. I think that's a little blunt. How long? Look, Cole, I understand you're upset, but Elin and I, what we have is real. It's not just physical. How romantic. How long? He was quiet for a moment, probably trying to figure out what Elin had already told me. 4 months. 4 months. While I was working overtime to help pay for her business expansion. While I was co-signing loans and putting our house at risk to support her dreams. She told you about the dinner? I asked. She said you walked out, that you overreacted to something she said. Did she tell you what she said? Derek shifted uncomfortably. Something about your relationship being temporary. She called me temporary. In front of all her friends. Laughed about it. Cole, I'm sorry. That wasn't the plan. There was a plan? Derek realized his mistake immediately. I just meant she wasn't supposed to hurt you like that. Just hurt me some other way? We were going to tell you, after her business got more established, when the timing was better. I laughed, and Derek flinched at the sound. Better for who? For everyone. Elin didn't want to destroy what you'd built together. Just take it with her when she left. That's not... Look, she cares about you. You've been good to her, but she needs someone who can match her ambition. Someone richer, you mean? Derek's facade was cracking. Someone who can give her the life she deserves. And what kind of life is that? The kind where she doesn't have to worry about money. Where she can focus on her art instead of scraping for clients. Her art? I couldn't help smiling. Derek, she plans birthday parties. His face hardened. She's an artist, a creative professional. She shouldn't have to beg construction workers for permission to follow her dreams. There it was. The real Derek. The one who thought he was better than me because his daddy owned nightclubs. Construction worker, I repeated. Is that what she told you I was? Aren't you? I'm an architectural project manager with a master's degree from the University of Minnesota. I design the buildings your construction workers put up. Derek's confidence wavered. Well, regardless of your job title, my job title comes with a salary that's probably double what you make playing nightclub owner. That's not... Money isn't everything. Funny. 5 minutes ago, you were telling me Elin deserves someone who can give her a better life. Derek was sweating now, realizing he'd walked into a conversation he wasn't prepared for. Look, he said, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. The point is, Elin's made her choice. She wants to be with me. The mature thing would be to accept that and move on. You're right, I said. She has made her choice. Derek looked relieved. So you'll sign the divorce papers? Make this easy for everyone? Oh, I'll make it easy. I've already started. Started what? Moving on. Elin's business collapsed yesterday, by the way. Did she tell you? What do you mean collapsed? I mean her vendors pulled out of the Hartman wedding. $50,000 contract down the drain. Her biggest client, ruined reputation, no way to recover. Derek was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Why would her vendors pull out? Because I was guaranteeing their contracts, my credit, my house, my reputation on the line. When I removed those guarantees, they wanted cash up front. You sabotaged her business? I protected myself from someone who was planning to leave anyway. There's a difference. Derek's phone was buzzing. He looked at it, and his face went white. That's probably Elin, I said. Calling to tell you about the other contracts that just got canceled. Amazing how fast word spreads when you can't deliver on your promises. Derek stood up abruptly. You're insane. You can't destroy someone's life because your feelings got hurt. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not propping it up anymore. Elin trusted you. She thought you were a decent guy. Elin lied to me for 4 months while planning to humiliate me in public. Trust's a funny thing to bring up right now. Derek was backing away from the table. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You think you've won something? Elin will rebuild. She's stronger than you think. With what money? Your daddy's nightclub profits? Derek's face went red. You don't know anything about my family. I know you're 26 years old and you've never held a real job. I know your trust fund pays for that watch and those clothes and the BMW you've been parking in my driveway. How did you? Minneapolis isn't that big, Derek, and you're not as mysterious as you think. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered it. Elin? Slow down, I can't. What do you mean, canceled? He looked at me with something close to panic. All of them? I finished my beer and stood up. Tell her I said temporary just ended. Derek was still on the phone when I walked away, Elin's voice rising to a shriek that carried across the bar. Big Mike grinned as I passed. That went better than expected. How's that? Nobody bled. The final act played out over the next 2 weeks, and I watched it unfold with the detached fascination of someone observing a controlled demolition. Elin's business didn't just fail, it imploded spectacularly. Word spread through Minneapolis's event planning community faster than gossip at a high school reunion. Vendors who'd been burned by her sudden inability to pay warned others. Clients who'd lost deposits demanded refunds she couldn't provide. Her social media presence, once carefully curated to project success and sophistication, became a liability as angry customers posted their horror stories. The Hartman wedding became local legend. The bride's family sued for damages. The story made the society pages, complete with photos of empty venues and disappointed guests. Elin's name became synonymous with disaster. Derek disappeared after the first week. According to Mrs. Gupta's intelligence network, he'd been seen loading boxes into his BMW and driving away from his downtown condo. Apparently, dating a social pariah wasn't as appealing when it came with lawsuits and negative publicity. Bree tried to distance herself from the wreckage, but social media has a long memory. Screenshots of her Instagram stories supporting Elin's business were circulated alongside the disaster reports. Her influencer credibility took a hit she'd never recover from. Through it all, Elin called me. Dozens of times a day at first, then sporadically, as the reality of her situation sank in. I never answered, but I listened to every voicemail. They started angry. You can't do this to me, Cole. I'll take you for everything in the divorce. Then desperate. Please, just call me back. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. Finally broken. I know you hate me. I know I deserve this, but please, I need help. I don't know what to do. On a Friday evening, 2 weeks after the birthday dinner, I came home from work to find Elin sitting on the front steps. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in 14 days. Her clothes were wrinkled, her hair unwashed, her eyes red from crying. The locks, she said when she saw me. You changed the locks. It's my house. It's our house. Check the deed. My name, my down payment, my mortgage. She stood up slowly, like it hurt to move. Cole, please. Can we just talk? I looked at her. Really looked, for the first time in months. When had she become this person? This stranger who could lie and cheat and plan my humiliation while sleeping next to me every night. What do you want to talk about, Elin? I want to come home. This isn't your home anymore. Where am I supposed to go? Derek won't return my calls. My parents won't speak to me. I can't afford a hotel. You should have thought of that before you decided I was temporary. She started crying again, but these weren't the angry tears from before. These were the tears of someone who'd finally understood the consequences of their choices. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know what I did was wrong. I know I hurt you. But please, don't destroy me completely. I'm not destroying you, Elin. I'm just not saving you. What's the difference? The difference is that everything that's happening to you is the result of your own choices. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to humiliate me in public. You chose to build a business on my credit while planning to leave me. I was confused. I made mistakes. No, you made calculations. You thought you could have it both ways, my financial support and Derek's excitement. You thought you could manage the transition without consequences. She was sobbing now, and part of me, the part that had loved her for 5 years, wanted to comfort her. But that part was smaller now, overwhelmed by the clarity that had come with seeing her true character. "I'll sign whatever you want," she said. "Divorce papers, property agreements, whatever. Just please, let me stay here until I can figure something out." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. "I got a call from my lawyer today. Apparently, you've been telling people I was abusive, that you left because you were afraid of me." Her face went white. "Cole, I never—" Bree posted it on Instagram, something about supporting women who escape toxic relationships. "I didn't ask her to do that. But you didn't correct it either." I was desperate. I needed people to understand why I left. "You left because Derek had more money. That's not exactly a sympathetic narrative." She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her trying to find an angle, some way to salvage something from the wreckage. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked. "Nothing." "Nothing?" "I want nothing from you, Elin. I want you to sign the divorce papers and disappear from my life. I want to never see you again, never hear from you again, never have to think about you again." "You can't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. "What happened to you? You used to be kind." "I used to be naive. There's a difference. This isn't you, Cole. This coldness, this cruelty. It's not who you are." I laughed, and she flinched at the sound. "You're right. The old Cole would have forgiven you. He would have taken you back, probably would have helped you rebuild your business. He would have been grateful for the chance to prove he was worth keeping. And now? Now I know what I'm worth. And it's more than being someone's backup plan." Elin stood there for another minute, maybe hoping I'd change my mind, maybe just trying to process the finality of it all. Then she walked to her car, a rental, since Derek had apparently reclaimed the BMW he'd been letting her use. She turned back once before getting in. "I loved you, Cole. Maybe not the way you deserved, but I did love you." "No," I said. "You loved what I could do for you. There's a difference." She drove away, and I never saw her again. 3 months later, I got word through my lawyer that she'd moved back to her hometown in Wisconsin, where she was working as a waitress at her uncle's restaurant. The divorce was finalized without contest. She signed everything without asking for anything, maybe because she knew she had no leverage, or maybe because she finally understood the damage she'd done. I kept the house, kept my job, kept my dignity. I lost a wife, but I gained something more valuable, the knowledge that I was worth more than being temporary in someone else's life. Derek never contacted me again, but I heard through the Minneapolis grapevine that his father had cut off his trust fund after the negative publicity. Apparently, the family business couldn't afford to be associated with scandal. Bree's influencer career never recovered. Turns out, authenticity matters in the social media world, and her followers didn't appreciate being manipulated. As for me, I bought new tools for my workshop, started dating a woman who thinks project managers are fascinating instead of embarrassing, and learned to sleep soundly in my own house. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled things, if I feel bad about not fighting for my marriage, about walking away instead of working things out. The answer is simple. You can't fight for something that was never real. You can't work out problems with someone who sees you as a problem to be solved. Elin wanted excitement, status, and financial security without commitment. She wanted the benefits of marriage without the responsibility. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Instead, she got exactly what she asked for. Temporary just ended.